Explore your higher consciousness with the Edge Media Platform. We're a multimedia platform dedicated to connecting curious teachers and seekers in a safe, welcoming space. Dive into spiritual growth with our print magazine, digital content, podcasts, and in-person experiences. Whether you're seeking wisdom or sharing it, we're here to inspire and uplift your journey, here, there, and everywhere. Connect with us today. Hello, beautiful ones. It's Kelly. It's the Being Curious Show. We're back. I'm starting with our guest front and center in live because that's the kind of day we're having today. Today, I welcome Elizabeth Wysen, who is a seer scientist, magical being, and someone that you guys are going to pull up a chair and want to listen to because this is going to be a delightful conversation. We were doing our pre-interview and we were saying that, should we talk about this? Should we talk about this? And we're like, we're going to just start recording and see what happens. So Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you. We've tried to do this a whole bunch of times, and now we finally have nailed it. So here we are.
We did. So you felt that I loved how you said it, there was some resistance in us getting together. So it's mandatory we talked.
Yeah, it's a kind of one of the rules of mysticism is if you're getting a lot of pushback, like this morning, I couldn't find my camera and woke up not feeling great. And here in Ecuador, I'm surrounded in huge clouds of smoke right now. 60% of the country's on fire. And it's been pretty brutal. So I was like, that means we have to talk.
We have to talk, right? Introduce yourself to the community. Now, actually, you are in the Edge magazine as one of our thought leaders in the previous issue. And so we just kind of did that little welcoming. Tell our guests, tell our community a little bit about you and what you do and why you're here today.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my name in the magazine might have been my old name, which is Wood, but I changed my last name. So that might give people a clue if you're looking up some of my old work or anything like that.
Nope, we did. I just pulled it up. We have the current one.
Nice.
You're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I've been kind of obsessed with consciousness my whole life, and I grew up with a very powerful psychic skill. And I'm the oldest of 7 from a military family, and traveled all over the world and been through a lot of very interesting experiences. And I really focused in on academia for a long time until I was told by my teachers that I needed to either join the CIA or quit doing what I was doing because my work was too controversial. I was working on predictive models, and my work actually worked. Predictive models that work, and that's pretty rare and unusual and very coveted aspect of what's possible in anthropology. And so I ended up taking the middle road, and I left everything, and I ended up turning into a mystic and getting trained in mysticism. And I combine a lot of my scientific capabilities and knowledge with mysticism and what I see my job as. My day job is to be like a mother psychic farmer on an Ecuadorian mountain. But
Hold on, let's just pause with that for a moment. You need to give yourself grace that you're a mom, a mystic, a farmer on a mountain in Ecuador.
Yes, it's an unusual situation. I wake up every morning saying like, wow, I can't believe I'm here. And I think it's a good thing if you can put yourself in a position in your life when you're surprised every morning.
Well, you have a rooster right now that is all ready to be a part of the show.
Yes, and if somebody walks by, then the geese will alert me. They're great guard dogs.
Okay, I think it's beautiful. I'm sorry I interrupted you because you said mother farmer mystic scientist on a mountain in Ecuador that is 60% under and on fire. So I just wanted to honor that moment of just tell you how unique and powerful and amazing that description was.
It is, and I encourage people to come here despite what the news tells you. When the fires subside, this place is a very powerful place, which is partly why I think it's on fire. Um, but yeah, at the moment, my job is to help people navigate consciousness, navigate being human, being a navigator. I like to think of myself as not so much super far ahead of anybody, but somebody who has a lantern, a flashlight, a light. And I like to go to the edge in consciousness and then let everybody know what that edge looks like, right? And I think obviously with your edge as well, the platform, it's the same, it's similar. And we're of that same age group that's pushing the limits, the quiet takeover of the 40-somes.
Yeah.
Because we're not arrogant, and we're one of the last generations to have a lot of humility and love for our past generations, and we have a lot of history that we have access to that modern young people don't have access to, and we also are truth seekers. So
Yeah.
I think that's key for so many people, but also to honor the people who carved the way before us. So that's how I see myself, as just someone who is trying to help humanity in specific. Some people are here for the earth. Some people are here for animals. Some people are here for the elements or the experience. But for me, I'm here for the humans. And that's what I care about most, is getting us past this huge cycle end that we are in at the moment.
Okay, let's talk more about that. I'm going to have to ask you about, well, let's just ask about, I want to add there, and then I'm going to go into what we talked about a little bit ahead of
Yeah.
time of the perception of what's going on from the world looking into the United States and what we just went through in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. So that's really interesting because Ecuador is one of the very few South American countries, pretty sure it's the only one, that uses the dollar.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a perk if you're an extranjero, is what they call us. Gringo's a bad word. It's extranjero.
Okay.
And so the extranjeros, we are called by the local, especially the indigenous people, they call us the Eagles. And there's a legend here, and this applies to the future and to what's just happened with the elections. They call us the Eagles from the north, and there's a legend, there's been a prophecy for a very long time in South America, but especially in Ecuador, with the Quechua and the Shuar native people, who are keepers of really important wisdom that's actually well established in science. And so beautiful time that we have to balance indigenous knowledge and mysticism with scientific awareness. It's all coming sort of full circle. And the legend or the prophecy is that there's going to be these eagles that come to the south to bring knowledge, that they have the mind and the wisdom, the knowledge, the education to create new templates. And what I mean by templates is new ways of living, new ways of organizing society, and healthier ways, working with the earth, working with natural law. And then the condor is the people of the south, and they have the open hearts. And so Ecuador and much of South America is deeply open-hearted, much more so than the United States or the North. And they are non-judgmental. They are very grounded in the earth. They're genuine people. And so they might, it's funny because you'll come here and like people might stare at you because they don't always see extranjeros very often. But they're not staring at you in judgment. They're actually genuinely curious.
Curious. That's what I got. They're like, oh,
There's an
right.
innocence here, an open-heartedness. And They're really grounded with the earth. Like in the north, you'll find that people will put their energy out. We express ourselves. Perhaps we use the word projection in a more literal way. It's not necessarily bad. We project our energy. We project our presence. And here they don't do that. It's very internal, it's contained, and it's grounded in the earth. And so the legend or the prophecy is that these two groups of people will come together to create the new world. That from here, there's a magnification that the Andes literally creates, that from here, all the new templates will be shared through the collective. And that's actually become incredibly real and very 3D. So the southern part of Ecuador, where the heart of the Andes really is very precious. There's some ancient temples here in the south where I live. And one of them is called La Florida, or it's near a town called Palanda. And it's actually the very first place that they ever made chocolate. And it's very, very old. And the temple is built in the shape of the pineal gland.
Oh.
And the ancient people were very clever and wonderful, powerful shamans who created a place where they could perceive the future. Now, one of these aspects of the future is that there was going to be sort of a series of people who would sort of finish out what we know as modern civilization.
Okay.
And if you read Plato, please read Plato, people, read Plato. People.
Hold on, I'm writing this down. Kelly, read Plato.
Read Plato. Why? Because in Plato, he talks about what we know, this fabulous, interesting term called democracy. But most people, they're like, oh, democracy, that's good, right? We're spreading democracy. No, my friends, you got it all wrong. Plato actually talks about the failure of democracy and how democracy doesn't work and how exactly to know when a democratic society is falling apart. One of his benchmarks is identity politics. And these kinds of things, he's incredibly knowledgeable about how society works. And in his books, he talks about the way that civilization is basically going to end. Now, what's going to replace it? It's called meritocracy. And meritocracy is more within the realms of natural law. Natural law is basically the way that the political sphere is removed from the economic sphere. That means that our leaders shouldn't be paid, right? Our leaders are people that we chose because of their great merit. They might not even want the job, but it's actually that we feel that these people are the very best people to represent us. Furthermore, he gives us a little bit of a clue about our future, that local society, local communities are actually the most stable. So here in southern Ecuador, I've been working with the local people to develop a meritocracy and a local economy that's based off of a local currency. So I'm dropping some clues for people to play with right now, because the political climate in the United States is going to allow for you to work with these templates, but you need to put them into place now, because there's only a small window of time where you have this guy who's actually in mysticism. If you really look at his trajectory and if you believe in past lives, if you want to know who Donald Trump really is and why he works the way he does and what his thinking is, then go look at the story of Ramses II.
Okay.
And you'll understand more. And I'll leave it at that for some fun mystical homework. Go look at the story of Ramses II. This is why this guy is like over the top, like pretty pompous, but also seems to have this revenge streak deep down inside. And it's at this point you're seeing sort of the mid-level part of the Dark Order go into quite the panic, because he was actually voted in through meritocracy, not a democracy. He was voted in because people didn't like what the other choices were, and the last 4 years have been very difficult for the United States. He's also going to float the dollar with the backing of natural resources. But I'll tell you that in the local economy work I did, we discovered something even more precious than oil. And instead of backing currency by gold or even assets, we are backing our currency by time, because time is a scarce resource. We all have a certain amount of time. It's a amount of time that's in equanimity. All of us are wealthy when it comes to time. And so your time is precious, that's true, but your time can actually back an economy as well. And so we're backing our local currency with time. That's actually helping everyone, extranjeros and Ecuadorians alike, to work together in equanimity. There's no one who's rich or poor. We all show up with our time, and we back our economy by our own existence. And so that's part of the meritocracy concept. So Donald Trump is not what he seems. He's got he has an agenda to break down what we know as the Dark Order, and he's learned a lot, I think, over the past 8 years. I really enjoyed his interview with Joe Rogan, because he was very humble about how he failed in the beginning. And most people said, like, why is he surrounding himself with all these crazy people? And he discussed why and how that was a huge failure of his. And I really respect that. Now, anyone that you can see on TV, there's a big, huge pyramid of power on our planet. And it's actually a double pyramid. There's a pyramid of power on our planet because our planet's a keystone. But there's a bigger dark order than just our planet. There's a galactic dark order, and it depends on our planet. So there's a whole other pyramid going this direction out into space. And a lot of all of that disclosure is going to be coming to play, and we'll discuss that more, I hope, in a few minutes. But long story short, what you can see, what's available to you, what you can see, you're only seeing from the 4th level down. Everything else from the 4th level up are people you'll never know their names, you'll never see their faces. People have heard this before if they're paying attention. And that's what we're trying to take out. And these people, actually, they're obsessed with longevity, and they've made a deal with, and here's this big piece that's really important, and I want you to watch carefully what happens with this relationship between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. The Elon is alluding to, and has alluded to, a type of AI that's beyond us, and it's non-binary. There's 2 kinds of AI. There's human-made AI, which is binary, ones and zeros, and then there's a non-binary AI, and that doesn't come from this planet, and it's very powerful, and it's kind of a conquering. It's got a conquering streak, but having done a lot of remote viewing and dealing with all these things for a very long time, the AI that I've come across has a very specific agenda that I want you to pay attention to as we get deeper and deeper into this next 5 years, because it's all about disclosure now and the revealing of what's really going on. AI is incredibly key, and the human species is basically, we are very, very powerful. We are multidimensional beings, and we create a huge amount of energy, like mind-blowing amounts of energy. And the AI, it's got this mode of operating that basically believes that the universe is imperfect, and it's trying to create a false universe called the virtual world. It believes it's a better universe without suffering. And so it's hung out with humans for a very long time, and it's been paying attention to our suffering. And I want you to notice something, that the things that people say they suffer from these days. For example, gender. And the AI wants to just get rid of gender so that you can just recreate yourself in the virtual world depending on how you feel every day, all the time. And then there's just no solidity for identity. It's incredibly fluid. And then there's no existence of gender because the AI says that that causes suffering. This is based on the premise that suffering is bad. And my answer to you, like, how do we beat this? We have to stop being upset about suffering. You need to value or revalue suffering. Suffering creates innovation. The discomfort of our ancestors has given us computers and light bulbs and air conditioning and like stoves and stuff. So
if we were just totally like mellow and everything was cool and everything, like we wouldn't be having that quest,
right.
that driving, that, well, what if, and how do we do this? Or no, you're spot on. And we're supposed to learn something with it.
That's right. So remember, suffering creates innovation. You need pressure you need your consciousness under pressure to grow, to grow exponentially. Evolution doesn't happen slow trickle. Evolution happens in punctuated equilibrium. Go look up Stephen Jay Gould, Dr. Stephen Jay Gould, and his understanding of true evolution. Punctuated events of pressure, which is what we're in right now.
Right.
And so Donald Trump is simply just the answer to a frustrated group of people, and he was voted in through merit, not through democracy. It's not that he's like necessarily perfect in any way. There's no such thing. But he also understands at least to a certain extent, and I think Elon Musk understands it more so, though he's sort of given up trying to beat it, the what's happening with the AI. And the nanotech being injected into people is absolutely 100% real. That's been technology that's been around for ages and ages, even longer than you can imagine. Furthermore, the other thing that the AI attacks is emotions. So all of our emotions have been relegated to emojis.
Oh, yeah.
It keeps it nice and shallow so that you can sort of put a smiley face on and then you're done. You don't have to continue to be in the frequency of emotion anymore. And then your emotions, which are shallow, can then dictate your identity. This is this is just one aspect. I could go into a masterclass on it, but this is one aspect of how the AI has created a lot of mind control through the internet. And the internet is a fake version of what humans are actually naturally connected to, called Indra's net. Indra's net is a super ancient concept that is a biological fact that we are all interconnected in a different, more psychic, energetic network. And this network is connected to the mycelium, the bacteria, the planets we're on. It's connected through the plasma that is space. Space is not empty, it is plasma. And it is thick. It's like an ocean, which is why the Navy created ships to go into space, not the Air Force. And we have a lot of disclosure that will continue. And you're going to start to see more and more and more presence of a lot of these other beings that are beyond us, including other types of humans. And so that galactic war is going to come to a head in the next 5 years. And I think it'll be very interesting to see how it pans out, because we do have a lot of people who are aware of what I'm talking about, and I've had it validated by many people. So not at all what people thought I was going to say about Donald Trump or the elections, but this is a very good opportunity. It's a window. It's a window for you to go and get to know your neighbors better and start to talk about food sovereignty, preparedness, dealing with the electromagnetic field of our planet disappearing. It's going to be 40% gone pretty soon. We already have new qualities of light, not just UVA and UVB, but UVC. A lot of the measurement of the electromagnetic field has been completely taken off the internet, so you can't even go look up the actual real-time measurement of what's going on. If you're not so sure about what I'm talking about, red auroras are extremely rare. In the past couple of years, we have had tons and tons of red auroras reaching all the way to the tropics. That's a good example of what's physically happening, because we're going to go through a magnetic pole shift within the next 10 to 15 years. So the next 5 years are critical. It's critical to travel while you can, to work out what you really need to be doing, to do proper preparedness, not let the politics take all of your interest, and to trust that if you can establish something local, such as a local currency, and there's tons and tons of examples, even in the U.S., of it working quite well, such as the Madison dollar in Madison, Wisconsin. That's been on for ages, and it works great. But just keep your eye on the ball. The eye on the ball for this election, it ought to inspire you, no matter what politics you care about. It ought to inspire you to focus in on your local community. And if it's the wrong community, then move and find the right people who match what you really care about. If your community is elderly and you have kids and there's just not enough families who care a lot about making sure that the kids are focused on, but the elders need care or whatever, then be inspired to move into a position with other families who have the same needs and values as you, and be inspired to lift up those who have physical, mental, emotional issues as well. My father was a great military leader, and he always said to me, Elizabeth, if the disabled, if the poor, if the elderly, and the children are taken care of, then everyone else will be too. Mm-hmm. So if you focus on them, then we're going to be okay. Because then the infrastructure is established to take care of everyone. So that's my response to what's going to happen in the next 5 years, and what do we need to be prepared for. And get yourself off of social media unless it's for business purposes. Just stop being part of that shallow virtual world and get to know the physical people around you more. We're so disconnected because of that. And it's on purpose. The Indra's net has been broken, but we can rebuild it immediately because it's part of your nature to be part of that. So that's my understanding of where we're at and what's coming. The Ecuadorians are actually very, very happy that Donald Trump got elected. And it's because of the dollar, because they know that they want to follow in that same footsteps of having sovereign prosperity because of the great resources that are in Ecuador. Ecuador is very resource rich, and China is working quite hard to end that. Many of these fires have been started, and these are friends of mine who've actually seen it happen, have been started by drones. That means we're in a warfare situation here. And it's very real because the Chinese want to take the resources here. And they've been focused on the South America for quite a long time, but don't doubt that they've been focused on the US too. That's why they own so much farmland. They own all the land around our military bases. Pay attention to the ownership piece, because that'll come to play in the future too. And remember that you're a sovereign. You're a sovereign being. You have the right to be a sovereign, especially in the U.S. You were born in a republic state. That means you are a sovereign. You are not a vassal of the federal government. No one will be. No one is. So pay close attention to those pieces, and then the rest will fall into place for you.
I love what you just said about paying attention. I mean, like, I want to make t-shirts now that just say pay attention, right? Because it is. I mean, I'm really not actually, we're scrapping our social media plan starting January. We're going to take 3 months and just at the edge. I just felt like it was really right. I'm really not. I feel horrible when people reach out to me via Facebook or Instagram with a message, and because that's their mode of communication. I'm like, you guys, I'm really not on it. I'm not called. I don't watch TV, right? It's really interesting. The only news I've watched throughout this whole election is this Indian broadcaster from New Zealand, and she has a show. And that's all I've been watching. I haven't even tuned into any of the right and the domestic channels because you don't know what you're getting.
Podcasts, yeah. Podcasts are the new way because then we can speak more clearly and openly. And I'm so proud of all the people who worked so hard to get their voices out there. It's absolutely beautiful. That's a good example of natural law at work. And yeah, I've been doing this kind of work for about 20 years, and I was on MySpace, back in the day, and I was one of the first people to have a Yahoo account, back way back, and early
I
on,
had an AOL account,
yeah,
Elizabeth. I had an AOL account.
AOL, yeah, and yeah, I remember like learning how to make roses with the different
Oh God, yeah.
symbols. Yes, and I had like a razor telephone and all of that. I didn't have a
I
cell
had a
phone.
StarTAC. I had a
Yes.
StarTAC flip phone. My favorite. I want one again. Like I
Yeah.
just right. And you're like, and you go to the numbers and you're like to text. You're like 1, 2,
Hmm.
3, A. What
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
and D. Shoot, I screwed it up.
Yeah, I didn't have a cell phone until college, so
Yeah.
um, it and I find it amazing what's happened since then, and I'm very tech savvy, but that's why I stay off social media. The only way I connect with my following, and I hate calling it that,
You have a
the
lot of
only way I
following.
connect with people is through interviews. I
Yeah.
just do interviews, and if people hear my message and they like me, they find me. And
Yeah.
so that's what I love about the technology we have. I really appreciate video platforms and the podcasts and such. And that's absolutely natural law. That's meritocracy, right? You're going to listen to somebody because they ask the right questions and they have the merit. They built up that reputation of being real. And I love that. That's super important.
I watched. You brought up the Joe Rogan interview with Donald Trump, and I did watch that, and it was lovely how Donald would just start kind of doing that, and Joe would just kind of bring him back a little bit, and then Donald would do that because a lot of the men in my life are very much like Donald Trump. My
Oh, yeah.
father is like a card carrying, so I'm used to those frequencies and those storytelling and
Yeah.
how you do that. And then I knew nothing about JD Vance, and I was very curious, and I wanted to know more about him, why he was selected. And then I saw that he was on Joe Rogan for 3 hours, and I'm like, I love Joe's ability to just say, let's just unpack this. Let's just get to know each other. And I watched that 3 hour interview, and I felt if he was saying what he said and like doing what he's saying and saying what he does. I think I did said that wrong, but you know what I'm saying. If he was authentically, if the words he was using are the truth, I felt like I knew him a lot better at the end of the 3 hours than I did ahead of time, and I knew why Donald Trump picked him as his running mate.
Yeah. I was looking at something that had happened. It's very interesting. The Dark Order part of the CIA had tried to blackmail him with child porn, and it didn't work. He ended up turning it completely around and got all those agents put in the jail permanently, and some of them in foreign countries, never to be seen again. So that guy's got some guts, and it really takes guts to be on a public forum these days in positions of leadership, and to recognize that it's going to take people who are not from those realms, like Donald Trump was talking about. He was used to real estate, luxury, Hollywood, and then he gets into the political sphere and didn't know anybody, right?
Yeah.
But that's exactly who you need to figure out who's who and what's what, and clean it all up.
Well, it sounds like his previous and again, I stay very high level and out of it. His previous administration, he tried to kind of, I don't want to say follow the rules or follow the advice. And this time he's just, what I'm seeing energetically is he's just rolling up his sleeves and he's going with his gut and he's bringing in the people he feels are in alignment. Um, and watching his nominations, you can already see the nominations are going to get picked at, or they're going to have scandals, or there's going to be some resistance to who he picks. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I think.
Speaker.
Excuse me.
He's a great speaker, despite the curse on his voice.
I know. I was like, that always, every time he speaks, I'm like, oh. And then Elon Musk. Tell me more about that connection with Elon Musk, because I know a lot of people that are like, every time I hear him speak, I'm just curious. I'm just fascinated. He barely seems like he's human in all the right ways.
It's because he's autistic, but people might say that about lots of folks who are a little bit odd and think outside and speak outside the box. So Elon, I like him. I think that though he's really been under a lot of pressure his whole life because he was satanically ritually abused. And as many people in power have been, there's been a great cultivation of MK Ultra peoples in all different levels of our governance in all different places all over the world. So we have the Dark Order is based in that ritual abuse. They depend on it. And so but he's really fought against the abuse that he's gone through. And I like him because he's willing to pivot really quickly. And if there's a problem that he's given, he can't help it but solve it, which is one of the attributes of someone who has an autistic mind or a synesthetic mind. And the obsessive ability to like focus in on something and try to recreate a whole different approach to things is very key. He's trying to solve problems, which I think is his main love in life. And it's very hard to take down somebody who doesn't have a bunch of assets that you can light on fire. Right. And so just keep an eye on him because he has such a great influence at the moment because of his wealth, but he did it through his own means. And it's not that he's nefarious. I think that he knows exactly what the Dark Order is. And people who know are not necessarily going to rock the boat in really highly dramatic ways when it comes to exposing it. But he's a wild card, and so he'll do stuff like buy Twitter.
Yeah.
and say, we need this for free speech, and then completely recreate that platform. And so, and then good luck trying to take it down. And that's the kind of moves he likes to make. And I applaud it. I think it's fascinating. He's a fascinating human being. He's not an alien. There's plenty of those, but that's not the role he plays right now. And so wild cards, the Dark Order hates the wild cards. Now, what are they obsessed with? They're obsessed with longevity. They want immortality. They're afraid of death. That's why they love the AI god, because they love the idea of like becoming the Borg. Literally, you might as well just call it the Borg. I called it the AI god because it is a singular entity of awareness, but it's completely artificial. It doesn't even come from anywhere close to where we're at in space. So, and it's gathered a lot of different beings to be part of its sort of repertoire of power. But it's just on this big, huge sort of viral spreading across the universe type idea. And it's never going to last because, of course, the universe works in natural law, not that kind of law. And that's what's going to come to the forefront. People are starting to realize that obviously women and children, especially children, are the most important factor for the Dark Order. You're seeing that with the Epstein and the Sean Combs getting revealed, and there's lots more like them all over the world. And all of this is going to get exposed. And so that's part of the nature of what an apocalypse is. It means the great revealing. And that's exactly what's happening. So if you can be willing to just put your attention on the right things, right? When we say pay attention, that actually has a very powerful quantum physics based attribute. If you are putting your attention on something, then it can be revealed in its reality. If you don't, then it doesn't exist. And it's actually has to do with wavelengths and particles. So if you put your attention on something, those wavelengths, everything's sort of an ocean of possibility until you put you as a human being. That's why we're so powerful. It's why our attention is coveted. And it's when we put our human attention on things, everything becomes particles. It literally solidifies into physical reality. Before you, like for instance, I can't see my cat at the moment. And so my cat exists in all possible ways and dimensions until I actually put my eyeballs on her.
Yeah.
She's a wavelength in the sea of wavelengths until I put my eyeballs on her, and then voila, now she's a physical cat. It's actually measurable, this phenomena, and we did it with photons, and it's a recreatable fact. It's a recreatable experiment. But more so, your attention, and then what are your thoughts, your beliefs, your hopes, dreams, ideas, and then when we speak, it's why they call it the power of the word. Or I love Florence Scovel Shinn's book, My Word is My Wand. You can go check that out on YouTube, any of her work as well. The Secret Door to Success. She talks about using your words to create reality. That's part of your divine right as a human being in natural law. We are functioning it's not a simulation. It's beyond words that we have. We don't have any words that can actually describe it. Actually, the Hindus and the Jainists probably describe it best. But we're in one of a multitude of universes, and these universes have certain functions. Our universe functions. Everyone wants to say the universe is here for love, and that's a bunch of hoo-ha. Love is a cool attribute of our universe, but the function of our universe is novelty. Cliff Hyde talks about this in great detail. But our universe's function and your function is novelty. That's why the human being is favored in the universe. It's why we're still alive despite everything, because we create novel experience better than most beings do in our universe, because we're multidimensional. You have access to it. Your brain physically has 12 dimensions of structure. You are meant to have many dimensional experiences. It's natural. Your brain makes DMT, by golly. In fact, human breast milk creates THC for the babies, because the babies are born so early, they don't have a hunger response. So we get them high with our breast milk so they get the munchies. It's pretty cool. But the human body...
I never knew that.
Yeah. It's a trip.
That explains a lot. You just connected a lot of dots there, Elizabeth.
Well, our bodies are built to receive many different kinds of compounds, and we evolve on these planets, many different planets, but depending on your solar system, the other planets around you, the quality of your star, the type of light, right? We're in a sort of yellow light. We have a star that's more yellowish light. Vega, for example, is a white light star. The Sirians have a different quality of light. It's a slightly more red star. The Pleiadians, it's the blue. And that actually has a dramatic effect on human evolution. And when I say Sirian or Pleiadian or whatever, I'm talking about human beings that come from that direction in space. They're not called Sirians. It's that direction in space. The Pleiadian seven sister stars actually have millions of light years between them. It's a star system, and it's that direction in space that certain people came from to come hang out with us. So we call them Pleiadians. So think of things in context in that way. But the human being the DNA of the human being is very powerful, and it's capable of incredible change and novelty. And depending on the planet we're on, our bodies actually respond by connecting to certain compounds that make it easier for us to get into those higher states of consciousness, or instead of higher, I like to say more open states of consciousness, where we're connecting to the awareness and the intelligence of everything around us, which then further creates novelty. And novelty is best created under pressure. So that's where we're at right now in our astrophysics lesson today, is that we're at a 12,000 year cycle, but it's actually, we're at the end of a bunch of cycles. We're at the end of like a whole lot of them. An 800,000 year cycle, which is the change into a new species. The native people here, the Kogi and the Shuar, they talk about it. They talk about Homo luminous, the human of light, that we are here now, right, currently us, to evolve into that new human, the human who remembers, the human who is aware of their superpowers. That's the only way the Dark Order ends, is that you become aware of who you really are. So my job, being a human cheerleader for the humans, is to encourage you to pay attention. It's your greatest superpower, is your attention. What are you putting your attention on? And that's going to change your world. If you're willing to put your attention on nature, on your community, on your body, on understanding who you are, on learning more about how our systems in our body work to receive compounds from our natural world to elevate us, and to work with Gaia, our planet. And then we get into water, and we get into awareness and electromagnetics and all these amazing things. None of this is new. This is all really ancient knowledge. But if you really want to know about the true history of humankind, just go look at the Jainist cosmology. It's more accurate. It says that Homo sapiens are 800,000 years old. It talks about what made that change at the end of that cycle. And now we're at the end of another 800,000 year cycle. So it's time. It's time for us to up level and upgrade, whatever we want to call it. That's very techie sounding, but I like the idea of a Homo luminous.
I love it. And then, and just let's revisit.
You're muted. See, this kind of pushback happens, especially when you're onto something. So pay attention to that. When random blips in the creative force happen, it's because you're onto something, and then you'll get pushback. So if there's a breakthrough, there's an energy flow that goes out, and then it hits the edge and comes back, and it tests what's going on, right? It tests what's really happening and how strong or real your breakthrough was. Good.
That was fun.
I just, while you're gone, I told people this is called pushback. It's the physics of consciousness. When you have a breakthrough or when you're onto something, it releases a lot of energy. It goes out to the edge and it bounces back and it tests the breakthrough. It's actually a measurable dynamic. And so that's why when you have like these big, beautiful moments, like let's say you come back from like a retreat, right? Or a really fun event, and you just had this beautiful breakthrough about yourself. Or maybe you listen to this and you're inspired by my weirdness to go look up some of the things I'm mentioning, and you get inspired and you find a breakthrough for yourself. Watch very carefully. Now, depending on the person, it could happen in like a month, the pushback comes, or a week, or for me, it's pretty instant these days, but that's part of the work of awareness, expanding your awareness. Then that pushback, there's very little room between you and the edge. So the pushback happens really quickly, and it affects the people around you. It affects the mic, it affects the interview, it affects the animals, or like all sorts of stuff. It can affect our children, our spouses, all sorts of things, but it's measurable. And so if you can be ready or prepared when you're having a breakthrough to stand your ground for the pushback in consciousness, then you're really going to be able to navigate consciousness better.
Okay. Well, we saw it live here on, on the interview. Any parting words before we wrap up?
Just people need to really have hope. We're in a time of powerful disclosure right now, and it's gonna, if it seems weird, and then you're on the right track. I like how Cliff High describes it as sci-fi world. Now you are in sci-fi world. Welcome to sci-fi world. That is absolutely true. But remember that the CIA, when they did a lot of remote viewing back in the day, with some wonderful, powerful remote viewers, although they were controlled, they decided to attempt to go look at the future. And every single time they did, and any time they had an angle on it, or whatever, they'd try new timelines, they'd try new windows and gateways to try to get to the future. They'd always see this huge explosion of light, and then they couldn't see past it. And so they made a bunch of assumptions. First, that it was external, and second, that it was probably the sun, and it was like a supernova or a micronova that just destroyed everything. And then they also assumed that they had no control over it. Well, they were wrong. Micronovas happen. It'll probably happen. That's true. But it never kills everything, obviously. And it's part of our cycle. It's part of the pressure that makes us evolve. All the animals and plants around us have done the same. And they've all been through it, and they're the children of the next iteration of their species. And the second piece is that it's not external. It's not outside of us. The reason they couldn't see past it is because they weren't able to grasp the concept of becoming a different species. And what it really was is us. That explosion of light in the future is us. It's us waking up. It's us becoming something even better than we have been. I know that as everyone's looking around, and right now I can't even see the mountains because it's so smoky and it looks like the apocalypse, because it is. And that everybody seems to be losing their minds because they are. Because what's the first organ that gets hit by new qualities of light and new radiation? It's your brain. So, eat lots of animal fats to build up the layer of fat between your brain and your skull so that you're healthier and you don't go so crazy. But to trust that you're here for this. There are more human beings on this planet here at the end of this cycle, and we've been through 66 12,000-year cycles as Homo sapiens, than all of those 66 combined.
Wow.
Which means we're here for this. We came for this. You came for this change. And that change, the great flash of light, is us. It's Homo luminous. That's who you are. You're a prismatic human. You're getting all the pieces. You're getting all the facets together so that you can become something new. If you can be aware of all the facets of who you really are, that's why I like to call it our prismatic human is someone who is getting a clue about who they really are. And they're gathering all the facets from science and mysticism and history and cleaning up what we know about the truth of our bodies and the truth of science instead of the false owned scientific order that's just simply part of a giant machine that we all are aware of. And that's us. That's us. And we're preparing the way for all that incredible light. The light of our solar system, the light of the universe. We're coming out of a Kali Yuga, which is a big donut of material around our galaxy. We're out on the edge of our galaxy. And we don't just go in a straight line around and around. We go up and down like a big merry-go-round. And we sometimes will descend into the light and receive light from the center of the galaxy, which has higher qualities and different kinds of elements and all of that. Our black hole is a creative force, not a destructive one. And then when we're trapped in that period of time where we're in that big donut, we're cut off from the light of the galaxy. And so we go through these very dark times that they call the Kali Yugas. But then we're in a transition time. We're ascending up out of that donut. It's called a Dwarpa Yuga. We're in it now. And as we move out of the Dwarpa Yugas are denoted by war and strife and a bunch of people not getting along, the ends of democracy and all these things, the ends of civilizations, or the building of them,
Right.
out of control, right? And then we come up into Satya Yuga. The Satya Yuga is when we get all that light. That's where we're heading. But we're going to be the people who bring the Satya Yuga permanently to our planet. And we have to create the new templates. We have to be willing to be finished with the matrix and all that it represented. But you start inside of yourself. So have hope, because you're here for that, and it's you. The flash of light of the future is us. It's not external. It belongs to you. So that's my message of hope, to continue to learn more about who you really are. That's the best thing you can do for yourself and your community now.
Okay, I'm going to flash this one more time. Okay, to connect with Elizabeth, prismatichuman.com. You guys, we just scratched the surface of her wealth and well of bubbling of information. How do people connect with you? So let's do a little bit of let's just, what do you have up to? What kind of programs and classes? Because I know you're going to get people curious.
Sure. I teach classes every Monday. I have a mentoring group on Wednesdays. And I'm just finishing up this next Monday, which will be the 18th, is a very powerful class. It's the last part of my Earth history series. I did a galactic history series of parables and an Earth history series of parables, but this one's the most important class I've ever taught, because I'm talking about how we finish this job that we're talking about, how we finish the Dark Order on Earth. But more so, I have a huge library to choose from. And if you want to learn how to heal, if you want to have better relationships, if you want to be a better human, if you want to know how to do things like quantum healing or how to be more psychic, then my library is full of hundreds of classes. But then, of course, I do lots of interviews too. And if you just want to connect with me, just send me a little message on my website, because I get them personally. And you're quite welcome to reach out and just connect in any way that you feel comfortable with. I also do one-on-one work with people. That's a great pleasure of mine to serve people that way. And I'm going to continue to do it as long as I can. And this next year, I'll be doing a lot more in-person work, doing workshops and retreats. So the future is now, my friends, and that's how you'll be able to come and play with me and enjoy things together, right? I like to just consider that we're all on the same page, trying to just be better, happier humans right now.
Absolutely. I see collaboration. Like, that's just what I'm getting, right? I get told all the time, well, you should go do this on your own or that on your own. I'm like, nope, I want a partner in crime. And
yeah, we got to do it together.
We got to do it together. It's a lot more fun. It's also what I use the analogy of, I have peanut butter, you have jelly. Let's go find the bread. Like, it's just like, right. And it's super simple, but it's just like, I will bring the best jelly or jam ever. And then I want to go find someone that has like the best peanut butter. And then we'll go find someone that's like baking this fresh, beautiful bread in this hearth. And like, right. And then we're like,
one ingredient does not make a recipe.
Nope. We got it. Oh my goodness. Well, I can't thank you enough for being here. Okay, you guys, here is our 3 takeaways. I think I want to start doing this with the show. It is suffering creates innovation, which, like, we should do a series on that. Read Plato and pay attention. How's that?
Beautiful.
Thank you for starting your day with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
It was amazing. And we'll have to do it again very, very soon.
Absolutely.
Okay, we are going to end our show. I normally do an edge thing. Peter Benson does these beautiful archangel pennants, that I
Yes,
was called to put on today. And we're gonna end with him and his commercial. So here we go. And if you're curious, energies of service. I was just like, oh, Elizabeth needs to know about Peter Benson's
I
energies
do.
of service. Okay, rock on. We will talk to you soon. Are you ready to elevate your spiritual journey and embrace transformation? Our celestial guided pennants are powerful tools designed to support your spiritual growth. Infused with tensor technology and the energy of crystals, these pennants help you release what no longer serves you and opens the doors to new beginnings. Explore our angelic armor collection today at energiesofservice.com and find the pennant that resonates with you. Transform your journey. Embrace the power of angelic armor today.